Everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome to our Step Up Facebook Live special event today. I'm super excited to be with you, and we have a very special guest an artist from my label services company here with me today, and we're going to demonstrate a live A&R session. So you can be a fly on the wall and watch what we do at our company as we help artists find their authentic self. So as you're coming on the call today, on the Facebook Live today, give us a shout out in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from and what part of the world. I want to give a very special welcome to our new Step Up to the Spotlight artists who have recently joined. I'm so excited. A very heartfelt welcome to you, and very excited to have you here. We are very much focused. We're a female-owned and operated company based out of New York City, and we are all artists ourselves, and we're very focused on creating a nurturing environment. And we have a curated A&R process that helps artists find themselves. And we do everything from voice. We have the most amazing vocal arrangers and vocal technique. We have the most amazing Signature Songwriting Circle with a rich community of artists, of which our special guest today was a part of, and got her started on this path. And our next one is launching on August 10th. And we have an incredible label services company where artists come to write and record. They work with our high-level songwriting team who's written with John Legend and Phineas, or done a project with Phineas, and written with Kelly Clarkson and Demi Lovato, and on and on and on. But we do it in a very different way, and we're going to demonstrate that today. We're very focused on the artist's voice. You know, Billie Eilish said a couple of years ago at the American Music Awards, when she had this stack of awards in her arms, she said, "I know there's a lot of producers and managers in the room tonight. Would you do me a favor and please listen to your artists?" So this is what we do. We listen. It's a deep process and helps you find your authentic self, and you're going to watch that tonight or today. So as you're joining today, please give us a shout out in the chat and let us know who is hopping on with us. I just want to get that up live for me so I can see you guys, and we're going to get started. There we are. There we are. Oh gosh. Hi, Grace. Hey, Zoe. Oh my God. So good to see you from South India. How's everybody doing? Still a crazy time in the world, right? Still a crazy time. Nat, also, if you can let Karen know that I'm going to let her in a minute. I wanted to just, actually, I'm going to bring her on, do a little introduction, and then I'll do the introduction with the A&R. But before I do, a couple of announcements, and if the team could put links in the comments. Upcoming, we have our Signature Songwriting Circle. This is the last time where you come and you get A&R with me and you write with our incredible team that I just mentioned in a very nurturing environment where we write songs to develop your voice and your vision and your sound. And that starts on August 10th. We are more than halfway enrolled, so don't delay. If that's something you want to check out, the team's going to put the link in the chat. We're still in early bird. I think we have early bird until next Tuesday or Wednesday or something. And it's an incredible opportunity to get your feet wet working with us. And it's not an automated program. This is a live program with me and my team. There's nothing like it out there. The viewer seat is for someone who just wants to get their feet wet and not write with the team. The featured seat is if you want to start writing with the team and get A&R from me. The VIP seat is if you want to walk away with 3 industry vetted songs personalized to you and your vision and your sound. And the white glove seat is for people that money's no option and they want everything that Cari Cole offers, right? And then that starts on August 10th. This is a little sample of the A&R that you're going to see today, and then next Friday, if you want to get your feet wet before you join, but you'll miss the early bird in SSC, but come and join our songwriting workshop where Stolar, our songwriters Stolar and Amy Cooney, who has written with Ames is her artist name, who's written with Kelly Clarkson and Jason Mraz and on and on and on. Jay has written with John Legend and Demi Lovato and G-Eazy and, Aloe Black, his song Brooklyn in the Summer went big a couple of years ago. So if you want a sampling of that, we're going to do live songwriting collaborations and more a live A&R like we're doing today at that, and that's August 6th. And that's $297, and it's a 5-hour workshop. It's in gold. It is incredible gold. And then if you want the full Monty and really come and work with us for 6 months and totally change the trajectory of your artist career, sign up for the Signature Songwriting Circle. All right, loves, enough announcements. Let's dive in. I'm going to bring my guest in, and then we always have Q&A at the end, so stick around. Here she comes. I believe there she is. Hi, Caryn.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you back from your trip in Maui?
I am. 24 hours of traveling later.
In the whole world. That's where I want to have our center, is in Maui.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, Gary.
So beautiful, right?
Yes. And it's such perfect to go into you bringing me on today, because obviously, like, there's so much circling around.
Oh, the grounding of the earth in Maui. Yeah. The energy of Maui actually vibrates at a frequency of 600. It's a very, very high vibration there. And I used to live there. I used to live in Kona for 2 years. So I'm on my way back one day. It's just magic, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I spent the whole week in Hana.
Oh my God, in Hana?
Yeah.
The whole week in Hana?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, girl, you are just floating away, I'm sure, today. Like,
I am. Yeah. I am.
Oh, and for those of you that haven't met Caryn and don't know Caryn and I've known each other for several years, and we've been working with her as an artist. And Caryn is Mama Nature herself. I mean, Caryn is just plugged into the planet, and it's a big part of her brand. So let me do a formal introduction, and then we'll get into the A&R. So Caryn Switaj is an acoustic folk singer-songwriter based in Northern Virginia, and really steeped in the acoustic rooted sounds of folk, Americana, old time music. And her songs feel timeless. You know, they have that timeless element, yet modern. And she weaves together these beautiful, inspirational storytelling with her soothing and quite soulful vocals, which you'll hear today. And so welcome, Caryn. And do you want to, for just a quick moment, talk about what your journey has been, you know, in finding us and working with us, and, you know, working with us at the label services company, and what kind of the highlights have been for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Where do I start? So Carrie and we started working together. Well, the first A&R session I ever did with you was during the SSC.
Mm-hmm. The
about 2 years ago.
Circle. Yes.
Yeah, it was May 2019. And that really opened my eyes, because being newer to the music industry, or just being an independent artist, it sometimes feels like a free-for-all. So it was like, once I found you, I was like, oh, okay, like I found someone who gets me and who is willing to be with me through the process. Like, that's what I felt like I had put out a beacon for, was like, who will understand my vision, like, to the full grand extent, who can I trust with that vision, who will help me dream even bigger.
Yes.
And give me the tools, like, put it into a funnel. Like, that's the way I think of you and your team, is like, you're the container, just like holding space for the artist to really like come through and be their truest self. So for me, it's definitely been a journey in learning about the industry, but also, I mean, you've seen it in the 2 years we've been working together. I've been able to fully come more into myself, just as a human and as an artist. And so I think that's really unique.
It is. I think, you know, that's our mission and goal, is to really help you do that. And there really isn't any place to do that in the industry, or very few places to do that. I think also, as a female team, we're more sensitive to that, you know, and I know for myself, as the A&R director at the company and the CEO, you know, it's, I guess, being an artist myself, that piece I always felt was missing in the industry. And especially the way that I want to be nurtured I wanted to be nurtured as an artist. I wanted to be listened to. And, I think there's a common thread in the industry that ends up going like in the direction of what they think people want. Like it goes more in like a commercial direction without first finding the artist, because then you can make a commercial, but it has to have that at the core. And I think that's what, we're doing with you, and you're so beautifully just, you have so much to bring, and you're so beautifully stepping into that. So I'm really excited about what's coming. What I wanted to do first was just explain a little bit to people who may not know what A&R is as much, and kind of the short little history of A&R and kind of where it is today and what we bring that's very different to A&R as it stands today. So A&R stands for artist and repertoire. So back in the day, it was really the matching of the material to the artist. So we're talking about the days of Elvis Presley and whatnot, where writers wrote for the artist and the artists were the performer and the entertainer, right? And then in the 60s, in the late 50s and 60s, the folk scene kind of emerged, and the rock scene, and, artists were writing for themselves. It was kind of this explosion in music with Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and all the Crosby, Stills and Nash and all these incredible artists that were exploding and responding to the counterculture that was happening, and then the love revolution, right? And so all of that, and I was very young at that time, but I was watching it all happening, and I was, we were all just like blown away with the music that was coming, right? So then, the labels were forming, and well, they'd been there a bit, but they were starting to spring up now because the music business was really expanding. And so A&R departments were formed, and those A&R departments were to help the artist put out the best material that they could. So they had a bit of a process to it. And usually A&R reps would scout new talent, but they would also be assigned to that artist that they signed or brought on to really nurture that creative process. And I think back in the day, it was more of a nurturing process, and they were in the studio with them, and they were directing the songwriting and all of that. Where A&R is today, where it's kind of moved into, is in the marketing departments. So now it's more like, okay, how do we market that artist? So it's kind of like slapping the brand on top rather than bringing the brand from inside the artist. And that's where we're experiencing this kind of disconnect and formulaic music that, is not maybe the full expression. And a good example of that would be Katy Perry. And I do bring her up, and God bless you, Katy, because I think you're an incredible artist. But I think what's kind of happened in following label direction is she lost her way a little bit. And, she's a brilliant songwriter and a brilliant performer, but, what happened, and she'd been signed 3 times and dropped 3 times. And so by the time that deal came, I think she was just kind of like, I need to take this. And the deal was, with Interscope, was the song, I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. So that's an example of A&R picking a song for an artist, but picking a song and slapping it on top of the artist and saying, okay, here's our song. Oh, what artist would be good for that? Oh, she's cool. Let's get her in here and see if she wants to do it. So it was, okay, you're going to do that song, or forget it. Like, this is our map. This is our plan. If you want to do this, we'll do it with you. And she said yes. Right. And I think along the way, and then she did Teenage Dream and, all of that stuff. But I think she's had a hard time transitioning into herself as an adult artist. And she has a lot of depth to her, and she kind of tried on that one album, but it's not really happening the way it could be happening to really captivate the essence of who she truly is. And she's already kind of started, and it's really hard to rebrand once you've started. So another really good example of A&R is Cyndi Lauper. Good example of an artist who had an incredible voice, an incredible band. She was singing in New York. She was singing with a band called Blue Angel. I was training with her. Vocal coach was my mentor. So I would see her every week at my lessons before my lesson. And there she was with her spiky hair and her Queen's accent, and all of that. And that her personality was like who she was. That was not slapped on top of her. She created that herself out of her own creativity and vision, right? That's really who she was. And so she was signed. I think she was signed in the band Blue Angel. I used to go see her at the Ritz. She could sing for days. She could sing, hold a note longer than any singer I'd ever heard. An amazing artist, right? But she wasn't breaking through. She was not breaking through. She had the team, she had the label, she had, you know, all the potential, but wasn't breaking through. Why? Because she didn't have the song. Okay. And that's why my company focuses on the voice and the song. Like those are the primary pieces that have to be in order, and we have to match the song to the artist. Here's what they did. So Rick Chertoff was a well-known producer that they brought into the mix that found a song that was a signature song or a match for Cyndi. And you probably know what that song is. And it wasn't Time After Time, which was a big hit. It was Girls Just Want to Have Fun. So Girls Just Want to Have Fun was a match for her personality and her brand, and it catapulted her into superstardom. But without that song, without that essence of her baked into that song, now in this case, she didn't write it, they found it. What our company is doing is we're writing those songs, right? So anyway, that's a little example, okay, of what we do. So what we want to do now is we're going to do a live A&R session. Caryn and I have not discussed the song concepts. We haven't talked about it at all. So you're going to watch it as it kind of goes down. Okay. So Caryn, why don't you tell me your couple song concepts that you're thinking about?
Yeah. So you're going to love this one. But I was sitting, you know, at the beach in Maui, and I just kept thinking, like, I need to capture what this feels like in a song. So it's about, like, the concept would be maybe like a song about feeling as free as the ocean breeze.
Okay, lovely.
Like that sense of, and I've got a really cool reference track for it too. That's just like, is really good.
Wonderful. I love it.
So
I love it.
Feeling as free as the ocean breeze, like what that feels like to not be in my head, to not care what other people think, like to just be free, really, okay. Which is sort of a newer feeling for me, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very universal. You know, like, and we're looking for in A&R and in development of song concepts. And for those of you that don't know, in our SSC program, our Signature Songwriting Circle, you start with the process that our curated process that I've developed, that I'm trademarking right now, that basically is the song concept, the backstory, and the reference track. And then there's a whole bunch of other little things in there that I'm developing that I actually want to show you, Caryn, because it's kind of new stuff. But that's our basic frame. So the song concept is what Caryn is talking about. Like, what is the song about? And then the backstory, which I'm going to develop with her right now more and explain why. So her backstory is basically this experience she had in Maui, but there's a lot more to the backstory, right? And then how we build that out. And then the reference track is an example of the direction and vision of the sound. And the reference track is usually, we want at the core the right beat per minute, and that really sets us off in the right direction. Just so you guys have a little history. Well, I like that one. So
I was just going to say, do you want me to give you the other ones?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, a song about kind of similar, but the open road and being an endless wandering soul. I think, like, you know, when you compartmentalize what we've all experienced with the pandemic, and then I add in the fact that I just was able to travel for the last few weeks, it just reminded me how important that stimulation is in the environment. And even during the pandemic, I was, you know, going on road trips and driving, but it's like that feeling of just like driving through the mountains, and I've got the music on and the windows open. Like, it's just, maybe not everybody experiences that, but that's what but like, I mean, happy place, you know.
But that's a universal feeling. So we've all been in lockdown, various degrees of lockdown for the last year and a half, and people are exploding. And so, you know, like that's now a very common feeling of, because the song concept would be, the reason why you're saying that is because from where you just came. So we always want to identify the conflict and the contrast in it, in laying it out. And then it makes more sense, rather than just, oh, it's a beautiful day and I'm driving through the mountains and I'm free. You know, it's like, I'm free because I wasn't free. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and for me, there's always this like, oh, I should be settled. like that feeling that we get in our 30s. That's like, wait, I should be settled. Like, but I get to just like up and take a trip to Maui and hop in the car and go. And so like remembering that that's okay. And then I don't need to fit myself into this societal box.
I like that.
Box that I keep wanting to,
I like that. And you have a third?
I do, yeah.
So this is what we do basically is we'll look at what are the song concepts and then we'll pick the one that maybe is more of a match or has the most juice for the artist.
Yeah, a song about owning the wise, wild, fierce woman in me.
Ooh, okay. So where's that?
They're all interrelated, right? They're just different avenues.
No, that's specific. That's specifically different.
Yeah, like that. They all kind of center, I mean, you know me, like they all kind of center around this like feeling of freeness.
Yes.
But I think this one's special to me too, because it's like, oh, like what would it feel like to just not be like the good girl that like does everything right and feels like I have to do this to please this person and this to do that, and I've got to give up this and sacrifice this. And it was so interesting. I mean, there's the Hawaii lens now, but it was very interesting because I was talking with one of the elders, like who's a native Hawaiian. He's lived there his whole life, talking about how women in the indigenous community and in the native Hawaiian community are like the queens, they're the matriarchs, they're fierce and they're soft and they just like embody this womanness that for whatever, for many different reasons, which I don't need to go into here, like doesn't exist as a whole in modern culture. And so exploring what that would feel like for me to embody that, I guess, and like call that into being.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Which one do you feel the strongest about?
I feel like going back to the first one.
Okay. They're all
that
good.
One's
They're
like really,
Okay, so
they're all around that freeness, but that one feels just like, yes, how do I capture this feeling in song?
I love it. I love it. Okay. So now let's go into it a little bit more. So this experience on the beach in Maui, a song about feeling free as the ocean breeze, to not be in my head, to not care about what people think. So what have been your, and I'm sure what you're going to say is going to feel very universal for most women or most people even, because of the way we live in society. And, what have been your struggles with that?
Yeah, it's almost like a self-sabotage thing, right? Like, I don't know that anyone's actually holding me, but, physically holding me back. It's
in your head.
Yeah, like it's me like getting over this whole thing that like I don't get to be free, or this makes me seem out of control and crazy and spontaneous and crazy. Like that's the thing, that's that thought that always comes into my head is like, oh, I'm so crazy. Like, why does that have to be the default thought? Like
probably because that's what you were taught.
Yeah.
And
surrounded, I don't know probably many people that would just be like, yeah, I got this intuitive hit that was like, yeah, like I feel life force drawing me to Maui. And so I'm gonna, obviously like there's the rational part that was like, can I do this? Yeah, I can. I have the time, I have the money, all those things. But it was like, there was this little voice that was like, you're being so crazy. You're being so crazy. You're being so crazy.
Interesting.
And I had to keep trying to silence it to be like, no, like you deserve this. You can do this. And like Maui's just a microcosm, right? Like of my life, me. So
of course. Well, and what's interesting for me as an A&R director, A&R person, listening to what you're telling me, what I'm looking for is the deeply personal that is universal. You know, the I want the deeply personal, you know, story, backstory, because that will feed the song. We won't necessarily put the specifics of it in there, but it's very important to have that context so that the writer has a clear direction of where the conflict is and where it's coming from, which makes the writing instantly, the writer's able to instantly identify with you as the co-writer in our system. And for me, you know, if I was writing it with you, I would want to know these things because I want to know how you feel about these things, a bit about your history, to understand from where it's coming from. You know, and I know, you know, the way that you were raised, because we've talked a lot, and it could be the same for anybody in a different kind of culture, you know, of feeling as a woman is in particular, that is sort of like that other song, but the wildness within your heart is somehow crazy or somehow messy or somehow, I'm just going to turn my video off and on because my video is doing that funny thing again. I have to restart my computer and I haven't because I've been working nonstop. But that aspect is, you know, while your story is unique to you specifically as to what kind of stifled that or what gave you the messaging or the reflection back that somehow that was crazy, right? It kind of goes back in our DNA as women with when women were burned at the stake. So, you know, is it coming from our direct experience? Is it coming from our ancestors, our lineage, the collective consciousness we are all in the pool of, right? So we're all being fed those messages through commercials, through advertising, through, you know, just the way that we live, right? So there's a lot of things that suggest that to you. You know, that it's not, you know, it's sort of like what the hippie culture in the 60s was speaking out against, and everybody started, you know, not shaving their underarms and throwing their bras away, and men started growing their hair and saying screw it, and people weren't showering and they were making love on the streets. I don't know, it was wild, but that was the culture trying to find its freeness again. So this is an example, guys, of what I'm seeing when I hear Caryn talking about that. Is I'm also paying attention to culture and what's happened, so that we put Caryn's personal story and what she is dealing with is at the forefront, but all of that other stuff is factored into, like maybe even the choice of a title, or, you know, understanding, you know, how that song is going to land in culture today in a way that's going to just go boom, right? Because we're looking for that common universal human emotion, but said slightly differently. And the differentness is Caryn's experience and her lens through which she sees and what she's bringing to it. And that's where it gets really juicy and beautiful, you know? Because no one is going to see it or say it like Caryn is. And that's the truth for every artist. And if we can go deep enough, we can find it, right? And then it becomes really special. I'm thinking of the song that we wrote, Wildflower, which was an example of A&R that Caryn may not have come up with on her own, only because I'm looking at her from the outside and I can see her, and to me, she's like a wildflower, you know, and she's this gorgeous, beautiful wildflower. Why? Because she grew up on a farm, because she grew up in nature, because she is, you know, literally made of the earth, in her vibration and spiritual vibration. And she's not like a cultivated rose. She's a wildflower. And everything that you're hearing her talk about today reinforces that, right? When you're listening. So it's helping her frame and coming up with, again, those kind of signature songs. Because when we're writing a record, we're introducing you to the public, whether it's a, you know, a second record, a third record, a fourth, or a first. And that introduction needs to have qualities of you baked into the songs, right? It's so cool. Okay, so.
Well, and no, side note about that song though, because for Wildflower, like I still remember when you were like, yeah, like you're not a rose in a vase on a table. And that's literally the first lyric of the song when we were, yeah, because we went kind of back and forth. And then I was like, let's just say it like this. And it was so
Let me actually
perfect. And
pull
it was
that up.
literally just something you said to me. And
I
it
see
stuck with
it.
me.
Let me pull it up and
Yeah.
play a little bit of it so people can hear kind of where
Yeah.
we're going. This
And
is
then
a
I remember I was pushing my niece in the stroller, and all of a sudden, like 2 lines of lyrics came in my head. And then I had the co-write with Miranda, I think like a couple days later. And I was like, I have this.
this
And
is
it just like
amazing.
totally flowed. It was so beautiful.
This is amazing. Can someone from my team go into Wildflower and grab the verse through the first chorus? I have it highlighted there. Can you just grab that and put it in the comments for people? I guess I could do it. Let me just see. And then this is well, maybe we won't do that. Let me just tell you what the lyric is. Forget about it, team, because this is an unreleased song. So I don't really want to do that. What I'm going to do is just tell it to you. So the first lyric, I'm not a rose in a vase on a table, not a daisy that you pick, to just sit there and to be pretty and be perfect. That's a role I'll never fit. Need the touch of the breeze on my shoulders and the sunlight on my skin. Need my space, need to breathe and to wander, always dancing with the wind. So take my hand and I'll show you things that no one can. I'm a wildflower. I don't belong in no garden. I'm a wildflower. Got a heart that don't harden. I'm a wildflower, untamed and free. I'm a wildflower. Come play with me.
I love that. I've never heard it spoken. That was cool.
I love to do that. And that can also be something that you do when you release the song. Like you could do like a spoken word version of
Oh
it.
my God, I would love that.
See, we just came up with another thing. That's amazing.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm going to play just through the first chorus of what you heard. I think I have to share my sound. So I'm going to do that. Share my sound to stabilize it. So this is Caryn's rough demo of her unreleased song, Wildflower.
I'm not a rose in a vase on a table. I'm not a daisy that you pick to just sit there and be pretty and be perfect. That's a role I'll never fit. Need the touch of the breeze on my shoulders and the sunlight on my skin. Need my space, need to breathe and to wonder, always dancing with the wind. So take my hand, I'll show you things that no one can. I'm a wildflower, I don't belong in no garden. I'm a wildflower, got a heart that don't harden. I'm a wildflower, untamed and free. I'm a wildflower, come play with me.
Ooh, beautiful,
Always
beautiful. And that rich honey sultry voice of yours.
Aw, thanks, Cari.
I'm so excited to it's really fun for you guys to see it in the demo stage and then hear it when it goes to production. But
Yeah, it's already grown even from that because that was last November.
yeah,
That demo.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was like your first time singing it,
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, but just gorgeous. Great example. So yeah, as I go into this whole idea where I'd want to go in the song concept,
Yeah.
is basically to go into what we were talking about of, when am I going to get over that I can't be spontaneous? And why do I feel crazy when I am? You know, and that little piece in there, you know, why do I tell myself that I don't get to be free when that's nothing but the truth, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, that piece will lead to the epiphany in the chorus, you know, but maybe it's kind of like an inner dialogue song, like talking to yourself about how, you know, this isn't who I am, you know, because if we put that in there, then, you know, everyone can identify with that, because everyone has running through their head at all times, unless you are Buddha or you know, a monk somewhere in some monastery. And even at the highest level of humanness, of being a human, we have doubt and fear and the duality coming through all the time. And there's, because of the culture and the collective consciousness, hopefully in the coming time, we get through this, you know, needle that we're going through, this passage of time that is just insane, because we are in the Great Awakening, and it's the death rattle of the last moments of the patriarchy and the powers that be controlling. And we're living through the toughest moments right now, right? But it's because the awakening cannot be held back. And so as we move into this time, you know, people need to not be schooled, but they need to be encouraged. And when we tell through story what we're actually going through without any shame or blame, that's where we find the power, because we're no different from each other. We're not that different from each other. You know, we are all subject to the collective consciousness and the thoughts that run through it. And so, you know, as these little pieces of ourselves recover ourselves. So in this song, we're almost like recovering the narrative and saying, yeah, that's what I've been told. And then that's what I've, you know, maybe we don't need to say believed, but in a sense, that's what I believed. That's what I was told. That's what was reflected back to me, but that's not who I am. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And I claim it now and here today. So it's almost like a song that you're stepping into and claiming. One of the things that I did when I wrote Circle of Fire, which was that album that was really a testament to the Four Agreements and Don Miguel, and I wrote it for his audience. My video's being weird again. There we go. And when I wrote that, I was experiencing such transformation. My heart was opening, and I was writing what I was feeling as I was stepping into it, but I was bringing through kind of the story of, you know, what had come before, you know, like, so that you could feel the awakening and feel the epiphany in it. But the songs were written as what I wanted to step into, who I wanted to become, almost like an affirmation or confirmation of it. And in saying it, we can manifest it. So it could be a real empowering song for you to claim it, actually, and say, and so I lay down that narrative, and I give it to the ground. I give it to Gaia. I let her absorb all that is not me in the conversation in my head, so that I can be free.
You're bringing so much to the surface right now for me, Cari. I don't know where to start. But there was a moment when I got on the plane and I looked at the full plane of people that was about to take off, and I said, yeah, I'm not alone. Everybody's going to Maui. You know, so that was like on a human level, that was just kind of like a funny moment that I had, where I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, the things that led me to go to the trip are a little bit more like, the thing that was making me feel crazy. But
you know, as you focus on this and you tell through your lens and your story, and you free yourself in the song, you then free all those other people. And all those other people in the world, because you told the truth. And we tend to want to hide. We want to hide the things about ourselves that are vulnerable, and you know, that we don't want anyone to know, or feel ashamed of, or, you know,
Right.
I shouldn't feel that way. That's not true. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you. There's a lot wrong with society.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, there's
Uh-oh.
nothing wrong with me. I'm not crazy. And if I am, great. Like,
Well,
I would rather be my friend when I was like, I don't know, like, does this seem like kind of crazy that I'm doing this? She was like, well, what would make the better story? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Yeah, like imagine myself talking to my grandkids or something one day, talking about this like crazy, you know. And the funny thing is now, like this is going to be a recurring thing because I'm like, oh yeah, there's so many other places I want to go and I want to go back to my way. It like opened me up to like give myself the green light to just live my life.
Exactly.
And to not be like, oh, I need to do this, or this isn't smart, or I shouldn't do this, or I shouldn't do that. And I think a huge piece of it really is about like I don't want to say like relaxation, but it, you know, when I had so many years of just like on the hamster wheel, on the hamster wheel, on the hamster wheel, and finally I got off, and it's just still been a process to be like, you get to have a vacation and you get to make your life essentially like feel like a vacation if you want it, by finding these moments in nature and these moments of freeness where I'm present in the moment. Like I think that's what it is. It's like the feeling of presence, like, oh, I can just be here sitting on the beach and feel this like sweet salty ocean breeze, and there's like the faint whisper of kids playing in the background, and like I'm good, I'm not crazy, nothing's wrong with me, like in this moment where I am right now.
I think a lot of it is you know, as I listen to you talk and I tune into you, and I can see sort of the life lesson or what is so important about that. And it's all about trust. It's like all about trusting yourself and your instincts. You have all of the natural instincts. You've had it since you were born, but because you're trying to reclaim it is what you're doing. You're trying to reclaim actually your natural essence and your true nature. That was yours from the beginning, that just got diverted from the narrative around you, you know? Guys, I want you to know, put your questions in the chat about this process or any comments you want to share with Caryn, because we're going to open up for Q&A. Any comments about the process, anything that you're learning, any questions that you have, load up the chat so that we can roll through that. But Caryn, as always, you know, it's such a pleasure working with you because you're such a deep thinker, and you're always sort of looking at yourself and looking to set yourself free. You know, you really are on that mission and on that journey, and I love where this is going.
Yeah, thank you.
What's your reference track? Yeah,
bring it out. Oh, so it's Stony Creek by Xavier Rudd.
I don't think I know that song.
I'll put it in the.
Okay, I got it.
Put it in the chat.
Okay, let me play it for.
It's Stoney. It's one of his newer ones.
I see it. I have to share my audio here so you guys can. Facebook will probably censor if I play it though. You know what? I'm going to listen to it later, because they'll censor the post because the copyright.
Yeah. Well, you heard that like little.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just this like little happy guitar lick. That's, you know, a lot of my Wildflower is like a happy song, but a lot of my songs tend to be like a little bit more brooding, you know. So I just like to have something really, like happy and free, and Wildflower specifically is about calling like, this is who I am, and sort of calling like a companion into my life. Like that's kind of why we wrote that, was like, what could have something to ground me and like who I am, and not ever give up who I am for someone else. Because this is just this like wide, like that feeling of like just being thrown like wide open. Like, okay, life, here I am, I'm alive. I'm just going to trust where you're leading me and follow the little breadcrumbs, because they lead to magic when I just let myself do that and don't think too hard. or try to like fit myself into a box.
And I think, you know, as long as we're human, that, you know, at least I've experienced in my X amount of decades on the planet so far, as long as we're human in up until this point in culture, for sure, you know, we're living in the world of duality and in kind of a dense sort of environment. And there's, you know, still a lot of things that we have to solve and figure out as a species if we're going to make it, and if we're going to pass through the eye of the needle, you know, and move to this place where we are. I think we have the potential to create a new world. And I think, you know, this is what's before us. I think we chose to come here, and I think this is a very powerful time. And, you know, as a result of that, what you're talking about today is really medicine. You know, it's really medicine that we have to do on the internal front. We, you know, because what we hold inside, and they say we're moving into this time where it's more internal versus external, and that our period of time leading up into this, everything was on the outside, you know, what could help us and change us and attracted us. And now what's attracting us more is on the inside. And so, because when we start to change the narrative here, and we start to change the values and the things that we value and the things that we treasure, and building a relationship with ourselves more, this is where it's going. And so you're right on track with, and I'm usually a couple of years ahead of where people are. I mean, I think my album was about 20 years ahead, but I think, I don't know, but you know, we're right on track with what people are going to be craving and wanting, you know, so that the more that you can push the envelope of your conversation about that, go ahead and do that, you know, just bravely. And I can help you do that too. There's a couple comments here. Grace Thiessen, hi Grace. Grace, a beautiful songwriter who is won a scholarship to the VIP seat. I think, did you win a scholarship, I think, or like a partial scholarship?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Best New Song Contest.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That's what started my CCVM journey.
Amazing. Grace just won.
Oh,
and
awesome.
She says, and she's here, and she says, I would love to hear Caryn from her experience in the program, also in co-writing with other people, what she wishes she would have known ahead of time. She says, I usually find it quite intimidating, especially with people I don't know, and would love to hear her experience.
Okay.
So what it was like writing with our writers and working with our experience in SSC with the A&R.
Well, a thought that just occurred to me is I wish I would have told myself that I belong. Like, I wish I would have given myself a vote of confidence before going in, because I think I was so nervous. Like, I had this feeling like I was like imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not going to be open enough or vulnerable enough, or how do I, you know, I've only written mostly on my own. How am I going to do? And I wish I would have just told myself, like, you're all good. And like just wiped away all the worry and anxiety, because it's such a safe space with the co-writers. And because of the process that you do ahead of time, like we literally just did.
Yeah.
You know, so
you're
that
already
right. Like it's so primed.
Yeah.
You know, is just to know that all the songwriters are incredibly like on board with you already, even though they've never had a face-to-face conversation with you. Like,
well, and they've been doing this process for 5 years now.
Yeah.
You know, so our team is super focused on, you know, writing the song that helping the artist write that song and evolve that part of them. So the whole team is focused like that, you know, and by the time you get to the A&R or to the songwriting, we've already worked out, you know, and so the songwriters are looking at that form, and they have access to that, and we detail it so they can get on board with like the depth of you as a artist, like immediately. You don't have to explain it all, right?
Exactly. Yeah, like you just show up, and like that's the victory is showing up. That's what I always say. Like you just have to show up and the muse will do her thing. Like it's magic. It really is. And then, but I would say like on a practical level, like once I went through the A&R, what I typically do is I'll sit and either like just put a voice memo on my phone and I'll like do a dig out loud where I'll just talk about it, or I'll journal about it just to see what comes up. Or like for my method, I do a lot of poetry. So I might just like free write, because a lot of times when I do that, like I might have like 4 or 5 pages, and it's like I'm a little bit ridiculous that way, but that's how I work. So then when I go into the session, I can like maybe pull a phrase or a word. And so for me, that's helpful because then I do feel prepared. So there's something I can do, because like I could just show up and it would be great. But for me, that makes me feel more prepared going into the process.
Absolutely.
So that I'm bringing my own, you know, because that's sort of my individual process. So like I'm kind of like mirroring.
I think it's beautiful. I recommend that. We actually recommend that now. And we even recommend sharing that with the songwriter prior, you know, with the co-writer prior, so that they have access to that as well. It's beautiful. And if you guys want to see an example, if you want to see our writers, we're doing a songwriting workshop next Friday. And Stolar, who's just magic, is Caryn's written a couple songs with him.
They're all amazing.
And he's incredible in his process, and he does digs. He's going to show you his dig process, and then he's going to do a co-write live next Friday at the songwriting workshop. And Amy is also.
Yeah.
I see some of our label people here, Signy. It really is the safest space to be in. There's no judgment, and they're also beautiful and loving, and they make it easy for you to open up and share. Yes, many of these people, I mean, many of them are my students, actually. So I've known Jay for 20 years. He was my, when he was 18, he came as a vocal student. And then Jess, I've known since she was 11. She's in her late 20s. Miranda, I've known since she was 13. So they've all been around this conversation, and they're specifically picked because they are sensitive souls, and they're just some of the best songwriters I've ever met. You know, and they were my students, and they became these incredible writers, and I hired them. You know, and then Luis, our vocal arranger, he's also a clinical psychologist. So we focus on people that have that therapeutic kind of energy to them. You know, I've turned down a lot of people, just really good writers from the industry, that don't have those qualities, you know, just to protect that sacred space.
Yeah, very empathic. And very encouraging in terms of being open. You know, it's like if you have an idea, sometimes the things that you just say out loud that don't make any sense turn into the beautiful thing, or like the lyric that you didn't know.
That's
so wouldn't have just said it out loud. Like it's a lot of just like outward process.
It's so true. A lot of times in the A&R, I'm typing what you're saying. And I know Amy does that in particular. A lot of the writers do, because everyone has their own language and the way that they speak. And sometimes what I've found over doing this A&R process in the last probably about 7 years, oftentimes what the artist says versus what they write is more conversational and hooky. It's more like nailing its lyric, you know. Very true. Let's see, a couple questions. Michelle Palace, who was in our last run of SSC also, can you offer any guidance to us artists developing our song concepts so that we know, hang on, they are specific enough? I feel like I start with very broad ideas for song concepts. Last SSC, great program, by the way, but they would benefit from drilling down. What questions should artists ask themselves to really hone in on the concepts presented or chosen if one is doing this process on their own song? Well, if you kind of roll back or watch this back and watch what I did with Caryn. So basically she came with this idea of the beach on Maui, a song about feeling free as the ocean breeze. You know, wanting to be spontaneous and not feel crazy. And so as I started to ask her questions more about her past, and like, I think I asked the question, I don't remember the exact question, but like, when did you go more into like feeling of being crazy? Like, well, where did that come from? Right. So it's kind of looking for peeling the layers back and like, okay, why do I want to feel free? And, you know, what's underneath that? And when did I not feel free? And what's underneath that, to kind of reveal the story to yourself, to get to that conflict, to kind of get to the core of why that's so important. It's almost like method acting in a way, like you're looking for the motivation of where that song is coming from and why. Right. So I hope that helps, Michelle. I think just peeling back the layers. Jen Phipps says, I rebranded to a metal style of music. How would that look with songwriting and as a group such as this? The genre is not, doesn't matter in terms of, I mean, of course it matters, but you know, if you're going to write in rock, then your reference tracks would be rock based. And that's where those reference tracks really help, because they give the songwriter already the beat per minute, the tempos, the feels, the genre, so we can identify, so we can write in that genre. Carrie Smith, have you written a song that you hear a particular person singing and can't articulate it yourself the way it is in your head? I'm not sure I understand that question. Have you written a song that you hear a particular person singing? Oh, you mean like if you're a songwriter writing for other artists and you hear somebody else singing it and you can't get it out on paper the way you hear it, maybe? Like you're hearing music in your head, but you can't get it out on paper. Is that what you mean, Carrie? I'm not sure how to answer that. I think a lot of it is skill. You know, it's the skill of being a writer that helps you be able to deliver that song, right? Yeah, Signy is saying something. One of the first things Miranda, who's on our team, and Miranda was on Songland. She's really an incredible songwriter. She told Miranda, one of the first things Miranda told me was, there's no such thing as saying something stupid or silly in our writing session. Sometimes we've gotten the greatest ideas from something that made no sense to me in my head. Yeah. There's a story, Pat Pattison, who's a, you know, teacher at Berkeley and an author of Writing Better Lyrics, I think is his book. And he says, when he went to Nashville, he was invited down to Nashville to write. And Pat had never written in the Nashville writing rooms, and talk about intimidating. You know, these people are in these sessions all day long and they walk in and they write a song in 2 to 3 hours and that's it. So, you know, if you don't have anything to offer, it's pretty embarrassing, or, you know, you're feeling insecure. And he went down to Nashville as a really good writer, feeling insecure because he'd never been through that kind of writing, you know, style. And so he walks into the writing room. He's the first one there. And then this guy comes in, his co-writer, and, you know, this big burly guy wearing a plaid, looked like a mountain man, comes in, nods at Pat, shuts the door, and he goes, is that door locked? Because what you and I are going to say to each other is going to be some really silly stuff. And I just want to make sure that nobody opens that door in the middle of that. So that's how he broke the ice, walking this guy, the co-writer, walking into the session with Pat. I think, and Miranda studied with Pat. So I'm sure that came from that story. You know, it's like, we're going to say some stupid things to each other. It isn't about that. And so the comfort level, the way we've created the process kind of bakes that into it. So it's like you're being presented to the songwriter with your best ideas already, you know, and they have a little profile on you, and we write out the genre and the descriptives, and they have a lot of information on that sheet that instantly they can, you know, identify where you are. Oh, I'm so glad this live is pure gold. Thank you. You're welcome, Ivana. So we'll go with one more question and then we'll wrap. The particular style of singing, the way they would sing it. Oh, that's not a question. Oh, it's Carrie asking more. The particular style of singing, the way they would sing it, the gritty accents in their voice that gives the song life. Okay, so you've written a song and you hear what you want it to sound like, but you're not able to deliver that well. And it may not, you may be hearing a particular singer sing it that isn't your voice, and that's kind of a different style of songwriting than we're talking about. That's kind of like a just songwriter, not songwriter, artist, like you're writing for other people. Yeah, because you always want to sing the song with your voice and the best voice that you have, regardless of what you're conjuring up in your head of what it should sound like. You really want to learn to find your own voice, right? Think of Carole King. She's a good example. Not necessarily a singer that, has great skill, but she's a songwriter who's a singer. So she brings her voice to the songs in her way. Or Neil Young isn't a great example also, right? Of just singing with his voice. Matter of fact, he went to the record label and early back in the days and they wanted to sign him, but they didn't, but they said, well, we like your songs, but we don't want you to sing them. And he said, well, the only way you're going to get my songs is if I sing them. And they went with it. So you got to stand up sometimes, right? Well, Caryn, a joy to see you. Jealous that you were on Maui. I'm going at some point soon.
I'm sending the Maui love to everyone watching and listening, and to you for sure.
Well, and it's funny because I got on a plane when I was 17 and went to Maui and didn't come back for 2 years. I went to Kona in Hawaii. So I've been on that journey, and it's just a special place. And our creative director, Coco, is there. She's in Kona. She's coming back on Sunday. She's been there for 2 weeks diving with the dolphins, and she's writing it's her first feature film. She's composing about dolphins and aliens, and it's going to be incredible. Yeah,
it's amazing.
So if you guys come work with our team, we're artists, and we're here to help you do this process. Check out our songwriting workshop. Come and join SSC. It is transformational, and we will take the utmost care of you. Thank you for spending this time with me, my love, and I'll see you soon, okay?
Thank you. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.